The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the promo code RTRS. Brought to you by LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter, and Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, Philly and the national spotlight. Jake Tapper saying trust the process, but not saying the name. Is Jake Tapper banned? We will discuss that. The Jrue holiday trade rumors. We prepare for the first week of draft talk in the Ricky universe. We had going to start last week, but then the Morey thing happened. A Morey-focused mailbag. We will tell you about the very first ever Ricky Spirit. Oh, that's right. Stateside Ricky. The Sixers seem to be bringing back the Iverson-era uniforms, and we welcome our old friend Mutlu, also known as Tommy Down the Shore, to announce a brand new podcast from the Ricky. That's right. Before we get going, I wanted to give a rest in peace and send some Ricky love out to the family of Pete Bloodman. Pete was a very close friend of the Unterberger family, and I am told that Pete was an enormous Sixers fan, an all-around sort of Philly basketball guy. Loved the college hoops, Big Five, all that sort of thing. But most importantly, a very, very, very good person, and it was a very shocking loss for the family and for his friends. So we want to send our love out to the friends and family of Pete Bloodman. Evan, his stepson, I think is a listener of the Ricky. So we wish you all the very best. Very, very, very sorry for your loss, and sending you love and light from us. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, a guy with a guy who I saw and I see now decided to take off his Lakers and Dodgers gear just for a day or two to put on his Philadelphia gear. That is Mike Levin.
Ah, what a treat. I'm like a Philadelphia mom on vacation. Every single piece of Philadelphia sports clothing I put on. What a time, you guys. Come on. It is the cradle of democracy.
Delaware County.
Delco, Montco, Bucks, everybody. Chester, everybody doing their part. Really very nice.
It does bring into question, we saw, you're wearing an Eagles t-shirt and a hat right now. Obviously, I saw the photo of you yesterday wearing your Philly shorts and Eagles paraphernalia. It does bring into question the photo of when you went vote to vote. It appears as if now you're wearing a hoodie or something over it, so I could only see the inside, but it did appear as if you were wearing a Dodgers t-shirt. Do you have anything to say for that? I mean, it's not like you wear all sorts of team gear all the time.
No. Nothing to say. It is a blue. I think it's my voting shirt. It's a blue voting shirt, supporting the side that I'm on. No, I claim. Obviously, Philadelphia first, second, third, and a millionth. But I've lived here for almost 10 years now, and I've been dating a Los Angeles lifer, and she claims Philadelphia just as much. So it's a give and take.
Before we get going, the Apple Podcast, I figured since you're in a better mood today, I'll bring back your favorite segment of pod, the Apple Podcast 5-star reviews. Leave us a 5-star rating and a review. We're at 2,769 on our way to 3,000. The subject line is my favorite lullaby. And the Apple Podcast 5-star review is brought to you by Kinetic Skateboarding, our friends at Kinetic Skateboarding. Just the releases almost every day with the new sneakers and the new gear at Kinetic. Use promo code Dave Silver for 9.1% off your first order at kineticskateboarding.com. Subject line, my favorite lullaby. My boyfriend is obsessed with this show, and every time he plays it, it puts me right to sleep. I've taken so many fantastic naps. This is the greatest podcast ever.
Delightful.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
So I actually, I wasn't going to start the podcast off with this, but I guess it makes sense given that we're talking about gear. The Sixers tweeted out some hints yesterday, and Ben Simmons' only Sixers-related tweets over the last several months have been with Chris Heck about the uniforms. There was a very dark Ben Simmons one, the light, you could barely see it. There was also one with Allen Iverson teasing next week. It does appear as if they are bringing back some form of the Iverson era uniforms, the gold, with the gold lettering that we used for the Redick Ricky shirt. Any thoughts, comments on those uniforms?
Cool. I mean, I like a mix it up situation. Mm-hmm. If the players like it, I'm generally cool with it. I think there's a handful of abominations in the NBA, but for the most part, all the jerseys are cool and good, and they do a good job.
I'm not a jersey guy. I don't. The only jersey that I feel like I could ever wear and not feel ridiculous is a football one to a football game, because it fits in a way that I don't feel ridiculous. I suppose at one point I used to wear hockey jerseys, but baseball and basketball I don't. So I don't wear them, and I don't really care. But I would like to remind everyone, because I did tweet yesterday that it seemed to me that the Iverson tweet was foreshadowing. I said, they're bringing back the ugly uniforms. And a bunch of people had a conniption. I'm fine if you like it from a nostalgic point of view, but those uniforms are ugly, right? I mean, I'm not like misremembering that, right? They're ugly.
It was more random than ugly, I think. I think the idea that it's like all of a sudden the Sixers and, the very clear red, white, and blue color scheme. Now there's like black and gold. Yeah. Where'd that come from? It was a very odd era for fashion. I don't think that anybody really had a handle on things. Yep. But I think now we can, if it's for like a once in a while type of way. Yeah. We can pick and choose from like that era of sort of odd randomness, and we can have a little bit more of a discerning eye of what we can use and pull from.
I would say that's fair. It's almost like watching a movie from the 80s that doesn't hold up, but you remember it fondly, so you just watch it for what it is. Do you have there was a bit of a debate about, and for what it's worth, I think the City Series jerseys that they've been doing recently have either been looked exactly the same like the one the year before, or like the one with the cursive on it that looked like it said Slicksers or whatever.
You also don't like Phila.
Yes, I hate Phila. I wish it would just say Philly.
That's where you're from, though.
Phila? Mm-hmm. But nobody calls it Phila.
Everybody calls it Phila.
Do you like
left and right cable news? People talking Phila.
Do you like better the blue version of the Iverson era, which I actually tie to Iguodala for some reason more than Iverson, or the black version of them? Which do you prefer, the blue or the black?
I would be interested to see what those jerseys look like in like today's cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not so huge.
Just like a blousy sort of, almost like a large bib. Mm-hmm. I think I do think it depends. I think Iguodala always looked great in those blue uniforms. I wonder what, like, because Iverson looks so iconic in the black. Yeah. It's hard to untie it from the nostalgia you feel. Yeah. Not a jersey guy.
Me neither. Not the only time I wear basketball jerseys is on vacation, when I can wear them without a t-shirt underneath and not feel like total trash, I think. Or I enjoy feeling like total trash. My wife knows that my vacation uniform is cargo shorts and a sleeveless and a tank top or a basketball jersey.
Wow. Really bringing the American dream wherever you are.
Well, I might need to carry stuff. You never know. Speaking of nostalgia, the rumor this week, and it seemed pretty widely reported, is that the New Orleans Pelicans, and this has been hinted before, but the rumors were started most strongly this week. The New Orleans Pelicans are willing to trade Jrue Holiday, former Sixer Jrue Holiday, beginning of the process trade Jrue Holiday. He has one guaranteed year left at $25 million. He has a player option after that left for $25 million that one would imagine that he will decline. He's 30. I guess your initial thoughts about the Sixers being involved for getting Jrue Holiday, trading for Jrue Holiday.
Love Jrue. Drew's great. Exactly kind of prototypical person you would want to be the third guy with Simmons and Embiid as a guard. The guard that can get his own shot, that can shoot off the catch, that just like a good team guy, plays defense, like fun in transition. It's kind of everything. Kind of just really the exact thing you want. I think Jrue is, no one's going to confuse Jrue with the top 20 player, but in that 30 to 40 range, really good fit here. It'd be great, and it'd be fitting in a circular type of way with the process, and now Daryl Morey being back. I don't think that if the Pelicans were trying to make the best trade, I don't think that the best trade comes from Philadelphia.
So that is the concern. I agree with just about everything you said. And the other thing about Jrue Holiday is that, he played he can play off ball some. Remember, he played with Rondo. He's not a particularly ball dominant point guard, though he can do everything a point guard can do. He does tend to settle for long twos sometimes, and he's not as good a 3-point shooter as you think he is, but he is good. I like him a lot. I've
been just yelling for a George Hill, a version of George Hill for years now. And Jrue has that kind of level with obviously better ball handling ability and younger. That's the fit that you're looking for.
So then I listened to a friend of the Ricky, Zach Lowe. We made him big, obviously, here on the Ricky, and Bobby Marks. They were talking about the Jrue Holiday trade. And this goes back to what you said about if they're looking for the best deal for Jrue Holiday, it's not coming from the Sixers. The things that they were talking about is trades for Jrue Holiday. And to be fair, Zach Lowe did not say that the Warriors would do this, but they brought up the idea of Wiggins and the 2 pick for Jrue Holiday. And they're talking about trades that involve, they were talking about Karis LeVert, who is a really good player on a great contract. I was sort of shocked. I think Jrue Holiday is good. I wonder if people think he's better than I think he is. He's good. I like him. I would like to have him. But in what world should Jrue Holiday be talked about in that respect, I guess? It just doesn't seem like Karis LeVert has the chance of being, I think, a top 20 player, actually. I think he does. The number 2 pick seems like a crazy idea, even if you're getting off the Wiggins contract. Is he overrated? Is he, I don't know. Don't those trades sound crazy to you?
No. Karis LeVert also is older than you think he is. He is. He's only 3 years younger than Jrue. And while he's on a good deal, he's got 3 years this coming season and 2 more years on his deal. And Jrue is kind of an expiring contract. I guess it'll depend on what the salary situation is or how his year is. If he has a great year, you got to expect he'll probably opt out, but maybe not. As far as the draft goes, look, I like Karis LeVert, always have. I don't think he's capable of being a top 20 player. I just don't think he's that level of player. I think he's good. I think he's helpful, but I'd be interested to see how high his ceiling goes. As far as the draft goes, it's a bad draft class at the top. There's interesting guys for sure, and I'm sure one of them is going to pop and stuff. But people are talking about James Wiseman at 1 or Obi Toppin in that area, and Anthony Edwards. And I think LaMelo Ball is really interesting. Killian Hayes is really interesting. Denny Avdia is really interesting. But like the idea of a top pick is always so much more tantalizing than when the pick has been made. Because you're almost like adding up all the possibilities from all of these guys. On the level of, hey, you could draft this guy and if he's a stud, he's under team control for relatively inexpensive for 9 years. Just a rookie contract, and then if you hypothetically give him the first max you can give him if he's that level of player. But from a player standpoint, the difference between, the first pick and the 9th pick in this draft is very minimal because it's super swimmy as to where everybody's going to go. There's no consensus 1, 2, 3, whatever. If you told me, and we'll talk about this on Wednesday when we do a more draft podcast, but if you said, hey, you can draft give me 15 to 29 and you'll take 1 to 10. And I think I would be able to overall I'd be able to make a better team. I think I would be able to have more useful contributors there because people are just trying for home runs at the top of the draft. And in a draft where there's not many home runs, I think a lot of them are going to be bad or at least like kind of like semi-useless or take a long time to become something that maybe becomes something. Because someone with potential after as a freshman is, oh my God, look at all this potential. But that those people exist as seniors, you know what I mean? As they maybe could one day become as good as this guy who's a senior who's good. I'm not saying I've always been like a draft for potential guy. So if you have it and you see it there, then go for it. But some of these guys aren't good right now and have a lot of weak spots to the game. And maybe they get there, maybe they grow and stuff. But it's just not a great draft class. And so the idea of if you're the Warriors and you're like, well, I mean, maybe you're trying to. Zach was talking about like getting a transitionary piece, like finding your Kawhi Leonard that the Spurs drafted towards the end of their run. And I guess you got to take those shots. And I'm not saying you have to use it on Jrue, but for 1 year, I guess it's a little bit short-sighted maybe as far as what you can get out of it. But I do think that Jrue is very good. And if you want to win a title as a Warriors, like you're not crazy to try to trade. Like if there was a world where you traded number 2 for Jrue and like 11 or something, I would do that in a second. Like not close.
Yeah, I agree with you in that what draft picks are worth as an idea as opposed to a person, aside from the top pick, which is.
But it's just not there this year.
Yeah, I guess people say that every year. Or not every year. People say that a lot. I still think the idea of getting whatever player you want is like pretty valuable, I guess. I don't know. I think we mostly agree. The idea of doing it for 1 year of Jrue Holiday. Also, this is not a Warriors podcast, but having Jrue Holiday would make them better. But like they do have 2 pretty good guards on the team.
But Clay can be the 3. That's not a. And Jrue can cover guys that are taller than him and stuff. I'm not concerned as like a fill a role guy. If that team, if it's Jrue, I don't know what they're doing with Wiggins, but if it's Jrue, Steph, Clay, Draymond, like that's a really impressive team. Yeah.
So
as far as the Sixers go, though, I would certainly try to do some level of, if for whatever reason the Pelicans, who had a really bad defense last year, if they value like we need a stable type of guy next to Zion. They had Derek Favors this year, and he was good, and they were better when he was on the court. But if they don't think that's right, or he doesn't want to be there, or whatever it is, and they want Horford for some reason, anything, whatever it takes, like Horford and picks and whatever for Jrue, like absolutely. I just don't know what the Pelicans want. Like, honestly, I think that they should keep Jrue. Like, I think the answer there is, like, I think I'm a Lonzo guy.
I think they're just dangling it out there to see if anyone really, really, really wants him.
But it's weird because they're like, if you're talking about LeVert, like they have Brandon Ingram, who I don't really like, who is already that kind of guy, like stare your defender down for a while, and like take an 18-footer. They have Zion. Like they need shooters and guys who are willing to work off the ball. And so that's Jrue, and that's also not guys that the Sixers necessarily have.
Would you trade? I have 2 trades. The other one isn't going to happen, and neither of them are going to happen. Just want to throw them out at you. Would you trade Ben Simmons for Jrue Holiday and JJ Redick?
No.
Would you trade?
Those are 2 expiring contracts, basically.
Redick has 2 years left, I believe.
He gave him a 3-year deal? I thought it was a 2-year deal that they gave him.
No, I'm pretty sure it was 3.
Okay.
Yeah. And then would you trade Shake Milton, Josh Richardson, the OKC pick, and the Sixers pick next year, and then Mike Scott for money reasons? Would you trade that for Jrue Holiday?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
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 I obviously love Shake, but yeah, probably. I would imagine they would rather have, maybe not, but I'd rather. I would still think that Matisse still has higher value around
Than
the
Melton.
league. Yeah, even though Shake is at this point more necessary for this team, I think people look at Matisse and start to like their eyes get big.
But you would do it if it was Thibault instead of Milton there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Before we get the NBA is coming back December 22nd. Before.
Oh wait, is it 2 picks?
Yeah, it's the OKC pick and the Sixers pick next year.
Can they trade that? I don't think they can.
Sure they can.
Stepien.
Oh, because you could do a swap, I guess. Oh, but they're not going to want to swap with you.
Right.
Then make it the 2022.
Maybe. It's a tough. I think Jrue's great and I think it's helpful, but the being an expiring contract worries me for sure.
Before we get back to the return of the NBA and our announcements for the pod, the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Now, I always talk about the NBA futures for next year, the chances that the Sixers might win the championship. I'm going to give you MVP odds. You tell me if it's a good bet or not. Embiid plus 4,000, so he's 40-1. As a comparison, Jason Tatum is plus 2,000. Kyrie Irving also plus 4,000. Damian Lillard plus 2,000. Harden plus 2,000.
I don't know.
Wide open.
Embiid, yeah.
Giannis is only plus
I try not
600.
to bet the Sixers because I'm too emotionally invested, and so it's not a worthwhile venture for me. But if that is what you're into, then great. I just worry that Embiid will never play enough games and minutes and everything to be seriously in that conversation.
Simmons is plus 6,000, but for what it's worth, Giannis, who I think was even money to start the year last year, is plus 600. Doncic plus 600. Anthony Davis plus 700. Steph Curry plus 1,000. So, look, if you want to bet basketball futures, DraftKings is where you do it. If you want to bet college and pro football, DraftKings is where you do it. To celebrate tomorrow's action, Sunday's action, pro football action, DraftKings is ensuring all new users are covered up to $100. That's right. You bet. If you're a new user, you bet. They cover it. Risk-free Sunday betting up to $100. Plenty of action to get involved in. By the 15th, the Eagles will be back, and it'll be Eagles-Giants, and I'm sure that game will make us want to throw up. My guess is that line ends up being Eagles minus 6.5. That's my guess. And top of the great sign-up offers, DraftKings offers great odds boosts every Sunday to help you make it rain. DraftKings is a great app. That's what I like best about it. The app itself is awesome. Easy to deposit money, easy to withdraw money, safe, secure. In this country, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Whenever you want to withdraw money, whenever you want to deposit, download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code RTRS when you sign up. Get this can't-miss offer, DraftKings Sportsbook, ensuring your Sunday bets up to $100. That's right. You bet they cover up to $100 when you use promo code RTRS during sign-up. For a limited time, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Risk-free coverage paid out in site credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
In classic Ricky form, as soon as we started the podcast, CNN just called Pennsylvania for Biden.
Oh, there you go. Of course, in classic Ricky action, in that it happens while we're talking. That's
right. I just want to say there, brief moment of earnest thing. I volunteered in phone bank. I know a lot of other people volunteered in phone bank. There was the most engagement in Pennsylvania and phone banking ever is obviously different because you couldn't knock on doors, which is tough and put at least Democrats at a disadvantage. But man, it is. I just want to say, like, even you feel stupid sometimes, or I do, about like, well, these people, who are these people? Do they care about me? Whatever, like volunteering for a candidate or a cause that you believe in. But like, if you really give a shit, you're not like a rube to do it. Like
to volunteer?
No, to volunteer and phone
not.
bank
Yeah.
and to like, and it's a really rewarding feeling to, like, I text banked for a progressive district attorney candidate in LA and he won, and that's great. And it just feels really rewarding and weird. Every candidate or state that I phone banked for won, which is very odd as a Philadelphia sports fan.
To win.
It's really very surreal almost. But I just want to say, like, all the people that are organizing, and I played a very, very small part. It's just making calls and texts and stuff. But if you did, thank you. If you are considering it, I would just say, like, giving a shit is cool, and doing things that you believe in and supporting people you believe in and causes you believe in is also cool. And that's great. And also I'm happy that this is the highest voter turnout election ever. There should be we should all be passing laws on both. There's a conventional wisdom of, like, when voters turn out, Democrats win, and that's not necessarily the case always, because a shit ton of Republicans turned out, and that's good. Like, there should be turnout. It should be making easier for people to vote. People should be voting very simply and early and by mail, and we should be passing every sorts of laws that will make it easier for people to turn out, because more people being engaged in the political process is good and will help more people. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure 2016 is the second highest turnout ever. So yeah, it doesn't always help who you think it's going to. And I agree with you in that doing something, I would spread that out to almost every cause that you care about. Donating is nice, and we ask for donations a lot, and political candidates' causes ask for donations a lot. Actually doing something feels different. It just does. Yeah. It makes you feel like you are, obviously I do a lot of pet stuff, and all the fundraising in the world does not compare to being there. And look, if you don't have the time or you don't want to, a donation is great. It obviously is part of it. But I would agree that when you are actually physically part of something, when you're actually doing things, it is rewarding in a different way. So,
and the NBA slant to this is that in the bubble, when the NBA had the Wildcat strike that resulted in, after the Jacob Blake shooting, that resulted in polling places being opened up in arenas in different cities, including Milwaukee and Atlanta, a bunch of others, that may have made a big difference. And
Paul Millsap's
your boy Paul Millsap,
in Atlanta, where he plays.
That's right. Still, it's very cool. It's very cool, and the fact that coronavirus cases are going up around the country is very alarming, and hospitalizations are going up around the country, which is super alarming. It's going to be a bad winter, so just stay safe, and hopefully we can, get through this as best we can, and eventually start to get out of this fucking pandemic, because this sucks. And we want to have live events, and we want to go to games, we want to be able to do this, and I want to play basketball again, not just mini basketball in my living room when Alyssa's watching TV on the couch and I hit her in the head with a ball. Regular basketball. It's a dark time to be alive, but there's some bright spots, and I hope you guys find some bright spots in whatever causes you want to support.
Every dark thing is an opportunity to make a difference. It is a true. I believe it. I believe that everything that we go through that is negative, there is certainly an opportunity to cull something from that. And you're actually making a mistake if you don't. Like it's a shitty time for us all to go through what we're going through right now. So I hope this is an opportunity for light and less. Fixing the COVID situation and fucking fighting less. I'm just sick of everybody fighting with each other.
To follow through on it all, obviously Jake Tapper said trust the process on CNN. A lot of people reached out to me and texted us about it and everything. I just want to say Baby Bird left the nest. You know, like it's cool that he said it, and he's from Philly, and it's great, and he's Jewish, which is great, and he's saying trust the process and about Philadelphia, which is very cool. In my mind, it's been so far gone that I no longer. I no longer feel ownership of that. I do feel ownership about Daryl Morey getting hired here. That I will take credit for that.
Yeah.
And I will take credit for democracy still existing because of Philadelphia.
Just
so I will
not
take
trust
credit
the
for those
process.
things. Just not trust the process.
That's
That's out of the nest. But those two things, yes, I will still hold on to.
Well, it is very, we obviously take ownership of a lot of things that we deserve here, but one of them is. It is a very Philly thing to say, to like just fucking want nothing is more Philly than the Philly reaction to the last 2 days. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to actually just like say that like, no, it is ours. And Jake Tapper should have given us credit.
There you go.
So the NBA returns on December 22nd. The union and the league agreed. The draft will be on the 18th as had planned. Draft trade restrictions lifted on the 16th. Free agency right after the draft, camp on December 1st. Quick thought from you. Does this timeline help or hurt the Philadelphia 76ers? The quick
no
timeline.
Idea.
No idea.
Not a clue.
Yeah.
Who knows? I think if Simmons is healthy and back up to speed, then great. If he's not, then obviously that would hurt them and stuff. I think there's continuity probably among the players in that the main few guys will be there, and Embiid seemingly has been working his ass off to get ready and all that stuff. If Daryl's going to make big changes and the coaching staff is going to implement new stuff, I think it hurts him, in the sense of there are, what was the system they ran last year? Not much. If Doc's going to put in his guys, it's tough. It's a tough time frame for that to happen in. And obviously if there's any trades that are going to happen or anything, but because it's they have a little bit more rest than the other teams that went further, maybe that helps. But like, I don't know, it's a couple weeks. Doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah. I overall think that it's weird for everyone and we're just guessing, but I think giving Morey less of an offseason is a disadvantage, basically.
Yeah. Or he's very smart and quick.
And could take advantage.
He could take advantage of a shortened timeline. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
I could argue any case.
I agree. I was thinking about Morey today. I actually sent, I was thinking about like what he would do and yada, yada, yada. I sent MOC an email, Mike O'Connor an email, thinking that maybe there's a column there. But thinking about what he does, basically you could whittle down to, does he believe that on the Sixers right now, there is a player who can be the best offensive player on a championship team?
Yeah, I think he thinks Embiid is.
The best offensive player? He's not even a top 15 or 20 offensive player, though.
I think he thinks that he's capable of. I think his ability to get fouled is, he's only third to Giannis and Harden as far as getting fouled opportunities. And so I think Daryl probably thinks, and I would guess Doc agrees, that you can take advantage of that and hopefully improve his percentage of from three and get him some easier looks. I've been saying that for how long? I've been saying get Embiid easier looks, like just a couple dunks here and there, little lob. Like Embiid's not Clint Capella, but I wouldn't mind like 3 or 4 Clint Capella style just pick and roll dunks.
Well, part of that is not having a guard who can create those. Yeah.
Right. So I think absolutely that they think he could be. Whether he is right now, I don't think he's there yet, but I think they think he could be for sure.
I mean, it's really the question. And if he doesn't think it could be, then they need more than getting off of Horford, then that is a real serious conversation. That I think what the way he looks at it really just boils down to that. And I'm optimistic about that, but then you look at Anthony Davis, who is a better offensive player than Embiid, right now and has been. Maybe not a better overall player, but a better offensive player. And won maybe, one playoff series ever until he was playing with arguably the best offensive player in the whole sport. I think the second question is, can a big man be your best offensive player and be that? I don't know. I'm encouraged by the Morey thing, very, very encouraged. But more than anything, I'm so interested by it. I'm just so curious and we'll never know. He's going to talk so much and not really tell us what. I'm so curious to that fucking answer. Like, I want to know that answer really bad.
Have you reached out to him to ask him to come back?
Not to ask him to come back. He's doing the rounds now. I don't want to do it when he's doing everything else. I will do it when he's not doing everything else. Like, he's being asked the same questions all over the place. He's doing the round. We'll get him back, obviously, but I don't want him back right now. I would rather wait a little bit and see what happens and then be able to say that we didn't ask last time and then ask this time. I did offer to drive him here, and he said he didn't need it. So that's been the extent.
Nice offer.
Yeah. I said I would drive him here publicly if he would come here. So, I just wanted to make the offer. Before we get to Mutlu, also known as Tommy from Down the Shore, if you're a member of the Corner 3 newsletter, if you get that email, you got that earlier this week, that we are teaming up with our sponsor, Stateside Vodka, to do a Stateside Vodka with a Ricky label for the draft. It's very exciting. It is the normal, amazing Stateside Vodka, distilled 7 times, gluten-free, 40% alcohol, Mike. So Hollis approved, of course.
That's right. I demanded it. I actually got in the lab and did some chemistry to make sure that it got right to 40. They were like, how's 37%? I said, not good enough.
Nope. So you can pre-order now. It's on Stateside's website, but just go to our website right now. Go to rightsorickysanchez.com. We're doing a limited run, only 100 bottles. So what is the Ricky vodka? So it's got the Ricky label on it, and it's also got "We Were Right" in giant font on the back.
We were right.
And then we all had to create signatures. So they printed signatures, autographs of me, Mike, and Zoe all on the... Boy, when Zoe signed up for this, your autograph's going to be on a Stateside Vodka bottle was not something we discussed, but it's there. The thought is, during the draft, you're sitting at home, you're worried about selling second-round picks, you need something to take the edge off. Right there, Stateside Vodka. So you can pre-order it now. It'll be available starting on 11/11. We're very, very excited. Thank you, Stateside, for doing this. We went through a bunch of different versions of the label. I think their logo and our logo sort of match and make it look really cool. So very exciting for us. So
big time.
Yeah. So thank you, Stateside. You must be 21 to drink, of course. Please drink responsibly, and go to our website or Stateside's website for the Ricky vodka for the draft. I will be enjoying it for sure. All right, we welcome to the podcast a gentleman who has been on the podcast before, once. How many times have you been on?
A bunch.
Yeah. I think maybe 3 or 4 times.
Oh, really?
I think a couple times. Yeah, a couple times just as Tommy, along with my buddy Tony. But sorry, it's hard to not want to just go there.
I know.
But I think this is maybe the 4th time. I can't remember exactly, but
Soon you're getting a jacket, the Ricky jacket.
Man. Yo, man. Yeah, I'm ready for that, man.
So welcome to Mutlu. Mutlu, a musician, a friend, one half of course, his friend Tommy from Down the Shore, one half of the Hoagie Hour with Tony to Tony. I guess Moot first. As a touring musician whose life has, all of our lives, of course, have been turned, upside down from the last 8 months. I guess just checking in on how you're doing. You obviously no touring, but otherwise, how's it going?
It's been tough because that's my favorite thing to do, and that's kind of how I sustain myself. It's not the end all be all. I think there are other ways to. To push forward as a musician. But for me, touring is the cornerstone of everything. So it's been tough. It's been tough to adapt. And then the uncertainty of not knowing when it'll be back. It's frustrating, man. Some days I'm honestly demoralized. I can't lie. It's hard.
while things have been tough for you, obviously Tommy from Down the Shore has grown actually during the pandemic, and now has a weekly feature on with John Marks and Ike Reese. So there is a plus and a minus, I guess. There,
the worse I do, the better he does. Yeah. So it's like a correlation. So as my ship is sinking. Yeah, man, I'm living it up, man. Yeah. You know what I mean?
There's only
it's like
there's 100% of success, and you can only split it up evenly. So right now it's like 80-20 for him.
Exactly. Tommy's got at least 80. He might even have 80, 85, 90. I'm like 10, 15. Yeah, man, I'm living a dream. Yeah. These are beautiful times for me. I don't know. What's this guy's name? M-U-T? Mutlu? I don't know about him, man.
I do see as I'm scrolling my Instagram and I follow you, all of a sudden I'm just like, people's kids, all of a sudden it's like you just breaking into like a beautiful, like Stevie Wonder or something. Like here's something from the deep cuts for Stevie. Just like,
it's like that thing is those like little acapella videos. That's been like therapy for me because it's just so frustrating not to get on stage and so some days it's just like it's like a compulsion almost. I just think of a tune, think of like a Stevie tune or a Marvin tune, and I'm like, let me just do a little acapella. I've been doing a little more just the full versions on guitar, but sometimes like I'm just sitting somewhere, I'm like, let me belt something out. It's not the best picture quality or audio quality. I'll be honest with you.
But you have a beautiful full voice for such a dirtbag person. So with the Tommy in you, it really is diametrically opposed. I don't think that it's surprising every time.
Yeah, man, I don't know. This guy, I guess he can sing, but I don't know what else he does well. He doesn't do nothing really. I'm the star, man. I'm the star.
So, well, go ahead. What were you gonna say? Were you saying something?
No, I was just gonna say that it's kind of like we've talked about this before, but the Tommy from Down the Shore thing, because I've always been obsessed with WIP. You know this about me. I love the station. I think it's a singular, unique radio station, even within sports talk. Because there's other shows, sports talk shows I listen to, but WIP is one of a kind. So to get to become a persona on there, that has been, and to come on and do the bits with Amos on here with you guys, that's been a silver lining in these last 6, 7, 8 months, whatever it's been. You latch on to those kind of things at a moment like this.
Now, I did hear a rumor, and now I know you are a huge WIP guy. Obviously, I did hear a rumor from somebody that you were a Howard hater.
No.
Are we sure?
No, I think I know who might have told you about that. yeah, Tony. We'll talk later, Tony. No, you know what it was? Like, I felt like I always loved listening to Howard's show. But, I think part of his persona, especially in the heyday, was kind of to agitate you when you listened. And that's kind of the dynamic of sports talk radio, isn't it? Like you listen because you get addicted to feeling upset. And, Howard at times would be confrontational or antagonistic, but I thought that was part of the magic of what he did. So it depends on what you mean by a hater. It's like, it's a love-hate thing. Everything about being from Philadelphia is a love-hate thing, man. You love the city, you hate the city. You're obsessed with it, and you're totally like just losing your mind because of it, because we're just an angry lot. I got that anger too, man. I got a short fuse too, man.
How does Tommy feel about Howard going to the Daryl Morey press conference and immediately making it about himself?
Yeah, man, I was awesome. That's what I would have done. I would have done the same thing, man.
Yeah, we didn't discuss that. That was the most Howard moment and the most Morey response. Obviously, Morey was prepared. There's no doubt in the world that Morey was prepared for that.
Do you think they gave him a briefing before?
There was no look. If Sam Hinkie outlined what Daryl is going to encounter in Philadelphia, there's no doubt that Howard Eskin was part of that fucking list.
Yeah, Sam wrote him like a dossier of the figures that he needs to be aware of.
It's part of the intel that is received when you.
The transition team is here. It is. Let me bestow this upon you.
Yep.
You got to read it. You got to get into it. You got to delve deep into it.
So we have Mutlu on because for the first time, the Ricky is branching out to a separate podcast. We are, of course, the place where sports and pop culture meet.
That's right.
The internet does not have that. So during the pandemic, the Mike named, I think the idea of the segment was mine, and then the name was Mike's, was the Carl Landry Record Club. And that would be when listeners would send us albums. Mike and I would both listen to the album that we had never heard before, and then we would talk about it on the pod as an attempt to like hear new music, right? Because when all of your new music comes from Spotify or Apple, they're really just feeding you shit that they know that you'll already like. So just suggestions from new people.
And the Carl Landry part of it is that in Carl Landry's last game playing for the Sixers and the last game of his career, he, I believe, set a career high.
Right.
So that's
I didn't know that.
the record part of it.
I didn't know that was part of the
hit his
story.
record, yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's when
I love the name.
He got MVP chance that game. Was
right.
it that game? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the Carl Landry Record Club was born. So now, obviously with basketball back, we do not have time to do music reviews on the pod. So we have a completely separate podcast that will be me and Mutlu. Now, Mike loves music.
Love it.
But he admittedly, he A, does not want to do another podcast with me, but B, never had much more to say about the songs than he liked it.
Not much.
Yeah. So the way the pod's going to be me and Moot. You can subscribe right now on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Moot, I'll give you a dossier of Spike's ticks and stuff, and you just had to handle that.
I wanted to talk to you about that.
We'll offline
I'm
about
expecting
that for sure.
a 10-sheet memo dossier.
Yeah,
I'll be like,
yeah, you can, if you just search Carl Landry Record Club, wherever you get your podcasts, it's up there. There's a preview, short preview pod up there now. We'll be dropping the first episode starting this week. But the way it's going to go is like Moot will bring an album, I will bring an album, and we'll ask the listeners for an album. And we'll just listen to them and talk about what we think. And we've already booked a few awesome musicians for the show. I think we can say we booked Devin Gilfillian, who was, I think, maybe the first Carl Landry Record Club suggestion. So he'll be on one of the first episodes. And we've already taped a few of them. It's a lot of fun because we have very different music tastes. And the idea of like opening your brain up to music that you wouldn't have thought you'd like before is a lot of fun.
yeah, man. And I have to say, as a musician, like we're talking about this sort of crazy, surreal, endless time we're in. Like, sometimes we sort of talked about this, I think, on the first episode it's going to air. When you're immersed in something and when you're making your living from it and your livelihood is contingent upon succeeding or surviving it, sometimes it can threaten to take away your joy for just the art of it, the love of it. You kind of talked about this with sports. I know, I'm sure you guys have had your own experience in different ways. So for me as a musician, actually, it's kind of reinvigorated my love for music in a different way, where it's not about the next tour, the next record, how are we going to keep pushing this ball up the mountain? It's just about reconnecting the love of music. And when I get into certain artists, certain albums, we talked about this in the preview, I go very musicological. It's like I become obsessed. I want to know every record. I want to know the story behind the band and go through the whole discography. And I think this is for people who just love music in that way, in that obsessive kind of way. It's good, and it's great, like you said, to break out of our bubble of what we listen to. I've already listened to records that I don't think I would dig into. I never would have, I've become like a big Silverchair fan. And
right. It was a joy of mine that you liked that record. Right.
Right, and I never would have gone there on my own. So I think that's what it's about, and I think that'll happen when people submit records to us. What was the last? There was the one album we discussed, Faye Webster.
Oh yeah, it's fucking awesome. Yeah,
I had no clue. Amazing. Yeah. I love that album, and so it's just about the joy of music. And you guys have created something special with the Ricky. I know there's a lot of people who, like me, are obsessed with basketball, obsessed with the Sixers, and really enjoy what you guys do. And there's a subset of those folks who love music too, and you guys have had so many artists on, so it's a nice tentacle or companion piece to what you guys are doing.
Which of you is going to ask the hard-hitting questions like, do you ever think music is stupid?
Spike. That's Spike all day. Yeah. It's the good cop. He's the bad cop. I'm the good cop.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
So in interviews for years, I've been the good cop.
Yeah.
This is definitely a different thing for me.
There is sometimes I don't know how you feel this, because I'm sure as a musician you've gotten into just like a million of these kinds of conversations, but there's like like as a writer, you have the conversation of like, you start to have conversations about writing, and then you're like, we're comedy writers, it's stupid, like fuck off. Like there's that level of it. But like with musicians, it feels like there's a lot more of like a mythologizing, like the process and like the place you have to be in to either come up with the words or feel the vibe that you're trying to come up with. Is there like a, I don't know what even is the question that I'm going for, but like, is it like do you agree that there's a mythologizing the music making process, and is it sometimes more just about like, fuck, I gotta do this, I gotta like do the job, I gotta clock in?
Yeah, no, that's a great question actually, because I think there's perception and there's reality. And I find my favorite part of it is singing and touring and playing shows, and that human part of it. I find the songwriting side of it torturous, and the record making side of it torturous sometimes. It's to me, there is some mythologizing that goes on with how records are made and how songs are born. Like I'll give you an example. There is something sort of spiritual and magical sometimes. There's a song I have called "Gone Forever."
Good song, by the way. A really good.
Oh, thank
really
you, man.
Great song.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wrote that for my buddy Dante Bucci, who passed away a number of years back. He was a good friend of Amos's as well. He was just a guy I went to school with, and he was a great musician, percussion player. He's kind of part of our Philly music community. And I dreamed the chorus of that song. That song, they talk about like the thing of how a song kind of writes itself. I dreamed that one night. I woke up, I recorded it into a voice memo, and the song almost wrote itself. So there's that side of it, and I think that's where the mythologizing comes in. But then there's the other side of it where you're trying to get something done, and I'm sure you know this as a writer, where it's like it's just not happening. Mm-hmm. Like you have an idea, you sit down, you look at the page, you got the melody, but it's not clicking. And when I hit that kind of wall, I'm like depressed for 3 days afterwards. So I think there's the perception. Yeah, there is that magic that happens once in a while, but that side of it is tough sometimes, man. And it's the most frustrating. Can be the most frustrating part of being a musician, I think, or a writer.
I have dreams that I'm just not wearing any pants, and then that's like a good. Then it's like, okay, wait, let me write this down. It's a good joke. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
No pants.
Well, it's the same. You see, and then so how do you follow that thread? Like you have that dream. And then does that become a scene or something? Like, how do you follow that down? No, because me
just forgetting to wear pants in real life. That's how it goes.
I see it.
I would actually say that both of you, I'm never wanted to do what Mike does as a writer in that way. But as far as like sports and music, I love them both so much, and I'm not particularly good at either of them. Like I'm not bad. Like I know how to play a guitar, and I played in a shitty cover band, and I played pickup basketball, but I'm not, I can't do them. I can't, the amazing part is that I can't really understand how anyone is great at either of them. Right. Like it just doesn't compute for me. So I'm so amazed when you, like Mike, when I see those Instagram videos, I hear your voice, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like it seems like I'm so in awe of it. So it's I can imagine, I guess the idea of it being a job or something or frustrating, I don't ever think about. I only think about the fact that you're good at it,
Yeah, and thank you. I mean, it's always good to me to feel like I can do something that connects or communicates to people, mm-hmm. or that. Like I view it from that angle, kind of like if someone hears my tune, if they hear a song like "Gone Forever" and it meant something to them, and I've had this experience with that song in particular, where it's like. Someone comes up to me after the show and it's like, oh, my father just passed away, and the fact that you went through that and you communicated that makes me feel less alone with it. That to me is the magic of music, and it's also the magic, I think, of a great television show or film when you can. You're talking about like being in awe of singers. Like I'm in awe of people. Well, what athletes can do, because I was a mediocre athlete, but also if we're talking about film and television or theater, whatever it is, the ability to write a script that communicates something deep and human that I think a lot of this music, sports, it's all about us trying not to feel alone in all this. You know, there's a weird, it's like we just want to be loved, man. Like, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
There is that level of it. I think sports does that. Like, I'm looking at what you guys have done with the Ricky, and there's a community around it. Like, you know, every development, you know, now Daryl Morey's here. Like, we're all like excited about it together. And I think that's what informs my love of sports and just the film, television, and of music too. It's just that there's a connection there that we can make, and I think, you know, it's fortunate that we find these ways to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's so. I mean, I feel like I have to do like a brief prologue of if I was about to say anything too earnest or corny, but like when a pandemic, when you can't be around other people, to not like be able to like. Obviously, Alyssa's now had 2 championships during this pandemic, so that's great for her. But like the idea that she hasn't been able to like celebrate with other fans and like jump around and like go crazy with like and hug other people, like there hasn't been that. I feel like that level of community. You know, if there was if I could imagine a world if we weren't in a pandemic, Sixers hired Daryl Morey, Spike's like, get on a plane, we're doing an event right now, like, and we just like go do it, and like that. I feel like that is really very sad that it's being robbed from us right now. And I feel like you talking about community is, you know, that's why I mean, like watching Philadelphia over the past few days, and now only wearing Philadelphia gear across the board. Like I just feel such a sense of like civic pride and feeling like a community, and like I'm riding that high. And I'm like, I turned to Alyssa, like, should we just move? Should we move back? Should we do it? But I mean, it's at a time when you just have, you know, the only community you have is with, you know, either the past or like online. It's hard to quantify.
A lot of people have said, and I never take this lightly, but through the last 8 months, a lot of the emails we've gotten for the Ricky have been, boy, this has really been important for me over the last several months because I can't do any of the things that I do. So this has been a connection to normalcy and like a way to pass the time that hasn't stressed me out. And I think, like, you know, I don't see what we do as the same thing as a musician or what Mike does with writing or an athlete, but you're both right. It is all about connecting with people. And to bring it back to the podcast, that is, people listen to podcasts alone, right? Like it's just right. You and the people who are talking. So I have genuinely, Moot and I have recorded a few episodes so far. I've genuinely really had fun talking about music with him as somebody who sees things differently than I do and notice things in the albums and songs that I like that I had never noticed before. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I will end with this. And I met Mutlu the same day I met Amos at the Connor Barwin concert.
That's right.
On Spring Garden. What's that place?
What year was that? I was actually trying to remember. It
has to be like 4 or 5 years ago, something like that.
4 or 5 years ago, yeah.
And
wow.
And just about you two, because people hear you guys on like the Hoagie Hour stuff or heard you on the pod. You guys, I love watching you guys together because even when I remember going to see you at a very small place on Broad Street in Philly,
Boot and Saddle.
And Amos got up with you, and they do goofy shit. Like you can see as soon as Amos will get up to sing a song with Moot, and immediately they turn into 2 15-year-old boys with their inside jokes that nobody's getting, or their song jokes that people aren't quite clicking on. I honestly, like, the watching you two is makes me smile, I would say. Like, hearing you guys makes me smile. You have like a very funny relationship that it is funny to see with other people, I would say, that I enjoy.
Yeah, and he's like, you know, he's one of the first people I met when I started playing music, and we just had that connection right away. So many levels of the types of bands we were into, 90s R&B, and kind of like an absurdity. Like there's this connection he and I have where we see the absurdity within music. Like, we don't want to take it too seriously. And then it's been honed in years and years of touring together. You know, I don't know if you know, for a number of years, for about 3-4 years, I was in, I've opened a lot of tours for him, but then also for a while I was in his band, mainly when he was touring behind the Mission Bell album. And we had this bit where I would come out in a white suit every night. And just, it was this whole performance piece. I would sing backgrounds. I would leave the stage. I'd do a costume change. And I would come back up. And we would sing on his song. Well, I guess it varied depending on the tunes. But we would always veer off into this thing about the angel. And I would sing about showers of love. And we would just, it was so absurd. It was so absurd. We even had Angel's shampoo at one point. Our friend John had it, and I would like hand the shampoos off the stage. I mean, it was outlandish, but whether it's like me guesting with him or he comes up on my show, we have that connection of music, but like of humor. And I guess then the Hoagie Hour kind of took it to a different level, which led to the genesis of Tony T and Tommy from Down the Shore.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
But yeah, that's like, having friends like that in music like that, that's a big part of it too, man. It's like we're talking about the community, but it's the people that become like your family. Amos is my brother from another. We're like family at this point. And I think that's, I'm missing that too. The ability to go out and play shows and do that kind of thing that you described at the Boot and Saddle. It's so tough, man. I know you know it from the Ricky. I mean, you guys can't do your events, and it's like it's a bittersweet time because we're still finding ways to connect to each other. But it's like, when is it going to come back? That's what I wonder about, But I guess we're lucky we at least have ways to still stay virtually connected,
Well, Mike can tell you about the arguments that you and I are going to have when we have to do this podcast when you're on the road, because I'm sure he could foresee. What do you mean you can't do it? Da 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 da. Like it's all going to happen.
Spike goes to bed at 5:15 p.m. generally. Yeah. So just keep an eye on that.
No, man, we're doing 2 a.m. Tapings. When
Trust
I'm
me, I've done.
Well, yeah, when I'm done, man. When I'm done working my magic on stage, man.
Well, the podcast is available now to subscribe. Please subscribe. And we mentioned that you can suggest albums. Just do it in the Apple Podcast reviews. All the links to subscribe are at carllandryrecordclub.com. Oh, and thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't say this. Thank you to Marion Hill, who donated their song for the intro music, which is really fucking cool.
Great track.
Yeah,
great track.
Really cool song. And unreleased. I don't think they've ever released that song. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So it's an exclusive to Carl Landry.
Yeah,
wow,
they had it in
man.
the archive. So thank you.
I hope Carl Landry sues your ass.
Yeah. Are we gonna have him on? I mean, is Carl Landry? Where is he right now? Do we know where he is?
We've always said with the Ricky that we will have Ricky Sanchez on when it's the final episode. So we'll do the same thing with Carl Landry. So.
Right on.
All right. So subscribe. Thank you, Moot, for coming on, and give Delia our best, of course.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, fellas. Great talking.
Love you, bro.
Mootlu, one of the best guys we know. Of course, one of the other best guys we know, LL Pavorsky Jewelers, the original sponsor of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. Handsome guy, great dresser, owns a jewelry store that is like, if the Ricky was a jewelry store, well, it wouldn't be LL Pavorsky Jewelers, but the Ricky would never be a jewelry store. But I guess what I want to say is that I've been at a lot of jewelry stores, and there's always, the minute you walk in, all the salespeople give you sort of the side eye. Maybe that's just me. And there's a bunch of salespeople in there.
Well, because you're wearing a jersey with no sleeves and khakis.
You mean cargo pants, cargo shorts.
That's right.
Yeah.
Cargo pants.
They're scary places to me. LL, look, you go to LL Pavorsky Jewelers, it's not a scary place. It's just LL in there. Jeff, the security guard's in there, but that's it. He's there to take care of you. He's not there to pressure you into buying anything. He's not there to fool you into anything. He's just there to make sure that your jewelry buying experience is a good one. And 202 Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners have purchased engagement rings from LL, which is a fucking astounding number. It's not just engagement rings, though. Whatever you need. Is there an anniversary present? Is there a birthday present? Is there a, hey, I fucked up present? Is there a, hey, I'm just being nice present? All of those things. LL Pavorsky Jewelers is the place you want to go. When I say no pressure, right now he's only doing appointments where he's only meeting with people by appointment, right? He wants it to be safe. He wants to be able to clean in between people. He wants you to not feel sort of threatened by being in there. So 215-627-2252. Also, He'll meet with you virtually. He'll meet with you online if you'd like. He'll meet with you FaceTime or Zoom or whatever you want. He's going to hook you up. 707 Walnut is where the store has been there for over 30 years, and he's been able to sustain his business because he threatens people. No, he sustains his business because he's a good guy that does great work, sells you great jewelry at a great price, always supports our charitable causes, was a sponsor of the Bark in the Park run team, supports Coded by Kids. We love him to death. Lee at llpavorsky.com if you want to email him, if you don't want to call, or just tweet at him at llpavorsky. LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
The next president of the United States of America.
Oh, man. Oh, that would be huge for us.
Yeah, it'd be really big. That would be a big surprise as far as promotion goes for the podcast.
Oh, my God. And I don't know that we could... Yeah, I suppose we could still advertise his... Anyway.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll deal with it. We'll get the legal figured out when it happens.
Yeah.
Do you feel good or... Because I feel a little bit nervous that the next president of the United States is a Sixers fan.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. And a Syracuse fan. Pretty much you, man.
Yeah, well, I don't really care about Syracuse. I don't care about college anything. I don't feel a connection to Syracuse in that way, but it is an amazing sort of thing. Well,
Daryl Morey.
I mean, just
Sixers fan Joe Biden. Next step, championship.
I mean,
do you feel that?
Well, I mean, Barack Obama was a Bulls fan.
That worked out.
No, it didn't.
I don't see how that's the case.
I don't really think about it too much. I don't think of politicians as actual sports fans.
I'm trying to imagine him like showing up and sitting courtside would be pretty funny.
Well, he's gonna ring the bell, right?
That'd be cool.
Can I ask you this? Is it right that he rings the bell before we do?
Well, I was going to ask. I was like, now that Daryl is back, because we've been through this, up and down with the Sixers and whether they like us or whatever.
Yeah.
But now that I think back on the good side, do we get to ring the bell?
I don't know that we're on the good side.
You don't know that we're on the good side?
No.
I'm converting to Mormon for nothing?
I think we are never going to be on the good side. I think
that's fair.
I think we are on the side of, okay, we can relax about that right now. And you mentioned having Daryl on. I almost wonder if it would be more interesting right at this point to have Elton on.
Would be great.
Yeah, I would love to talk to Elton about this process, actually. Well, yeah, I don't know. A President Sixers fan, I'm going to stay neutral on that one. I don't know if it'll work out or not work out. Feels
like a real moral judgment on his part that's not going well.
I really just know that we should ring the bell before him. And that's all I'm saying.
I either need to ring the bell or get verified on Twitter. At this point, what's it going to take?
I got to tell you, buddy, I've been working on the verified on Twitter thing for you as a surprise. And the process has become much more difficult than it used to be. It used to be that if you had
I'm an icon in two businesses.
An icon. I love having this mic back. Jesus Christ! Thank God the election's over. And it wound up. Boy, the smile. We haven't seen the smile in months.
Daryl Morey and not an authoritarian dictator.
Yeah.
And this is what a treat it'll be.
The Lorenzo Brown mailbag. You send us emails. writesrickysanchez@gmail.com. writesrickysanchez@gmail.com. This comes from Garrett. Hey, I just realized that Daryl Morey is the polar opposite of Brian Colangelo in practically every way possible. Morey uses Twitter to raise an awareness for certain issues, to communicate with fans and friends, and to have weird conversations with Sixers Adam. Colangelo used Twitter to constantly attack his star player under tasteful usernames such as Still Ballin'. Colangelo is very anti-analytics, while Morey is pro-analytics. Also, Colangelo is the most sensitive piece of shit on earth, while Morey doesn't make decisions based on public opinion and doesn't mind if he gets heat for making the right choice. Lastly, Colangelo is built like a twig and Morey looks like a fullback. I'm taking a fullback over a twig any day of the week. This all came to mind when I saw Morey FaceTime Embiid. That tweet made my day. There's no question there. I just thought it was a good email.
Yeah, I would say that Daryl is probably more sensitive than he lets on.
Yeah, but he doesn't. Boy, I don't know.
He is every time surprised by how big he is.
Physically, you mean?
Yeah, big guy.
Yeah. I don't know. I forget who I was talking to about it, about like there just needs to be something in your head that is able to see negative feedback. Even there's the negative feedback bias where you can see hundreds of positive responses, but if you see one negative response, that's what you fixate on.
I don't know that Brian was seeing hundreds of positive responses.
Right, but I'm thinking about Daryl. I sometimes wonder about that sort of personality, and because I'm not like that, I wonder if he is. I would think he must be to be an online general manager, right? I mean, he must be. So
yeah, I think some. It's probably not a uniform thing where some things hit hard and you're like, well, that one's done, and some are just like, well, whatever. Like there's we've gotten our share of people that don't like us, and most of them are like, oh, fuck you. No, it doesn't matter. And some are like, well, I'll be remembering this for the rest of my life.
I will make note, and I have made note before, and you will continue to say it's not a big deal, and that's fine. I'm just making note of it. Doc Rivers, Daryl Morey, Brett Brown, yada, yada, yada. The only thing Ben has tweeted about in regard to the Sixers is with Chris Heck about the uniforms. Meanwhile, Daryl Morey is tweeting out a FaceTime conversation with Embiid.
I'm not saying that that's not a big deal.
Okay.
It's certainly something I'm noticing.
Okay.
Specifically, Daryl talking so much about Joel and posting a picture of Joel, and there not being
I'm just
at
saying.
least as much evidence of Ben or even Tobias. I don't know how far, if he starts to go down the list, how far does he have to go? And just like him and Korkmaz being like, so happy to be here, like whatever it is.
I was going to say him and Ferk. If the him and Ferk one happens before him and Ben, Ben's in trouble. This comes from Nick. My name is...
He keeps having to post pictures, and it's just like him and Mariel Shayak, and he gets like 11 faves.
This comes from Nick. My name is Nick from Clementon. I'm glad that there's only one Sixers podcast out there. It's this one. Basketball question. Now that the Sixers have Morey, I was wondering, would you rather have started out with Morey when the Sixers hired Hinkie? Let's assume Morey would have come at that time. Or have everything play out as it has. Hinkie, team collaboration, and then finally Morey. If you start with Morey, most likely no trust the process. Embiid, I disagree with him here. Embiid, Simmons, but maybe Morey does what the Rockets have here, and we don't go through dealing with Scott O'Neal and ownership. I wouldn't have changed things. Well, I love the Hinkie experience.
Yeah, I think we grow and learn and suffer from all the things that we deal with. In a world where the Sixers win a championship, if you tell me that in 2 years, 3 years, whatever, the Sixers will win a championship, I will then say I wouldn't change a thing. Mm-hmm. I obviously would fucking change things. I would love to change things. There's so many things that happened that sucked. I would love to not have them happen.
Right.
But if it ends in the championship, then I'll be like, great, all worth it, fucking fine.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, boy, the last 3 years have been pretty tough. I mean, if I loved having Hinkie. And by the way, I think the mistake he makes here is thinking that if Morey was given the runway to do what Hinkie did, he probably would have done it. Morey did what he did in Houston because of what he had to do, not because of what he chose to do. They were never given the runway to tank. So
there's also just no world where Morey would have left a better situation in
Right.
Houston to come to a horrible situation here.
Yeah. Non-basketball question. This may be more for Spike, but please, Mike, if you have an opinion, do share. I usually run every other day in the morning. Some days I miss due to being tired, hurting, cold, etc. I want to start running every day, but most of the time my knees and ankles hurt from running the day before. That may take a day or two to heal. Then I can run forever. Spike, when you started running, what did you do to build up stamina, help with the aches and pains, also make yourself go every day? Do you drink a certain amount of water, eat certain types of food, stretch? Any help would be appreciated. You're an occasional runner, right? Mm-hmm. So a couple of things that I run every day. You shouldn't run every day. It's I do it for a mental thing, not for a physical thing. I need it, and I didn't used to do that. My best running happens when I run 3 or 4 times a week. I would say my best marathon running plan, there's a Runner's World, if you Google it, there's a Runner's World marathon plan that is 3 days a week that includes a lot of cross training and sprint work and things like that, and that's when I was the best runner than I ever was. I would say... Here's my advice to you. 2 pieces of advice. First of all, listen to your body. If your my knees and ankles don't hurt from running the day before. If they do, don't run. you have to listen to your body. And I've gone through a lot of physical problems because I tried to push through that sort of pain. And knees and ankles, specifically joints, I wouldn't fuck with it. I would just sort of take the day off until you feel good. And then as far as building the stamina, follow the 10% rule. You should never run 10% more one week than you ran 10% the week before. That's the trajectory you should go up, and that will prevent you from getting injured. As far as eating, I'm bad at drinking water. Eating foods, I think the cleaner you can eat, the better. Stay away from fried foods, alcohol, that sort of shit. But and as far as stretching, I warm up before and I stretch after. That's always been my rule. Anything from you?
I'd mix it up.
Yeah.
Sprinkling a little yoga in there. Stretch often.
Yeah.
And I would say when you're running, like, take breaks. Like, you don't have to run all the way straight through. It's good to walk occasionally in there. And yeah.
And the other thing I would say, if you're trying to run distance, don't be ashamed of running slowly. The slower you run, the further you can run. That's just how it works. So, and then finally, and he said, thanks guys, and count all the votes. From Dan, non-basketball question. What did Hinkie order for lunch? This is for you, Mike, when you guys had lunch. And did he ask you what you were going to order before you ordered it?
No. One time we just got coffee, and the other time we got Chipotle.
Oh, that's his thing.
On his advice. He's a Chipotle guy.
Yeah.
So he got some sort of a burrito bowl, and I think I did as well.
Burrito bowls are great. I'm not even a Chipotle guy. I do enjoy the burrito bowl, though. And then basketball question. I'm wondering if a sign and trade of Josh Richardson and 34 for DeAnthony Melton is a possibility. He isn't the greatest shooter, but he offers everything else we need as a secondary ball handler, plus Darryl likes him. Hollinger valued him at $15 million a year and the top shooting guard, kind of crazy to me. Would you do Josh and a high second for Melton? Memphis gets a vet piece to guard ones and twos for Morant, and Josh would fit pretty nicely on that roster as a young transitional piece.
They're pretty. First of all, the contracts don't necessarily work.
Yeah.
Josh I loved DeAnthony Melton. I loved him coming out. Like, absolutely phenomenal player out of SC. Weirdly missed his sophomore year because of some like bullshit NCAA violation. I don't think I think they like him next to Morant. Morant needs a versatile defensive guy next to him, and they work him off ball sometimes also. So I don't think that's necessarily the kind of trade. And also he's still young and like developing as a ball handler, and I think he's a smart player, and I think he's useful in that way, but I don't think he's as dynamic of a ball handler as we need here anyway.
I don't really have any thoughts on DeAnthony Melton at all. So
he's the man. I love him.
I don't know.
He's so good.
Yeah,
he's very similar. He's pretty similar to Matisse, honestly, defensively.
Oh, well, offensively, or no? He's not as good a shooter.
Yeah, kind of. No, he's a pretty good shooter, and he's a better handle, and he's less athletic than he has less like straight up bounce than Matisse does, and he's probably a little bit less like otherworldly off ball, and maybe a little stronger at this point than Matisse on ball.
That's all we got. He said, love the pod. Glad that Josh Harris was able to save it. And thanks for not letting him know you were going to cancel it before he hired Morey, or he would have never hired him to get you off their case. There were no plans to cancel it. But
Josh, you fucked up.
Yeah, you had us on the ropes, buddy. You really had us on the ropes. All right. Well, that's it. We will be back Wednesday for our first full draft pod. And that is exciting. So subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to the Carl Landry Record Club on where you get your podcast. Just search it. And that's all I got. You have anything else?
What a good day for the world.
If you don't fuck with me,
that's it.
then I won't fuck with you.
That right there was reason enough to subscribe for the YouTube, by the way. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, lick face.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
won't fuck with you.
But if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you!
Time for plan B.